The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to impress fear and respect. It floated in open space, larger than most cities, shaped like a perfect ring of light and metal. Inside, hundreds of species gathered on raised platforms, each designed for different bodies, colors, and ways of breathing. Voices echoed in many tones, some sharp, some deep, some impossible for humans to hear without help. This was the place where power was measured, where strong civilizations spoke and weak ones listened. On this day, many eyes turned toward the human delegation. Their arrival was late. A wide viewing window showed the incoming fleets. Sleek alien ships already floated in perfect formation. Their hulls glowed with soft energy lines. Shields shimmered like thin glass. Engines made no sound at all. They looked like moving art. Then the human ships arrived. They were slow, thick, gray. Their hulls were covered in layered armor plates, visible seams, and deep scratches. Large engines burned with raw blue fire, loud even through vacuum sensors. No glowing lines, no elegant curves, just heavy shapes that looked old, like relics pulled from forgotten wars. A ripple of quiet, laughter moved through the council. Some species clicked in amusement. Others flashed light patterns that meant mockery. A few did not even hide their thoughts. Those are human warships? One delegate whispered through a translator. They look unfinished. Outdated, another replied. How are they still alive among the stars? The human delegation stood on their platform without reacting. Day stood at the front. He was tall, with short dark hair and a calm face that showed little emotion. His uniform was simple, without gold or shining symbols. Only a few marks showed his rank. He watched the room with quiet focus, noting every glance, every smile, every sign of disrespect. Behind him stood Hannah, her hands resting behind her back. Her eyes were sharp and curious. She studied the alien ships on the display, then shifted her gaze to the faces of the council members. She noticed how quickly they judged, how easily they laughed. Jisoo stood slightly apart, arms crossed. She said nothing. Her posture was relaxed, but her eyes were serious. She had seen this before, on smaller scales. Underestimation was familiar to humans. The council speaker called for silence. A tall being made of layered crystal rose at the center of the ring. Light moved through its body as it spoke. This session concerns the rising threat beyond the outer systems. The hostile empire advances again. Several border worlds have already fallen. Images appeared in the air. Burning cities. Broken fleets. Alien ships torn apart by powerful weapons. The room grew tense. The council calls for a united response. The speaker continued. All capable fleets will join the defensive campaign. A pause followed. Then the speaker turned its glowing gaze toward the humans. Earth's forces have offered assistance. Murmurs filled the hall. Assistance? Someone said. With those ships? Another voice followed. They will slow us down. Day stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. He did not show anger. Humanity will support the coalition in any role required. The translator carried his words clearly. The speaker studied him. Your vessels are unconventional. You will be assigned to rear support positions. More quiet laughter. Day nodded once. Understood. Hannah glanced at him, but said nothing. Jisoo's expression did not change. The meeting continued. Plans were made. Timelines discussed. Advanced weapons praised. Alien commanders spoke proudly of their technology, their shields, their flawless systems. Humans listened. When the session ended, the delegations dispersed. The human team returned to their ships without delay. Inside the command deck of the lead human cruiser, the noise of engines vibrated through the metal floor. Screens showed raw data, simple layouts, and physical switches. No floating lights. No artificial calm. Hannah finally spoke. They think we are weak. Day removed his gloves and set them down carefully. They think what they see. They see rust, she replied. They see survival, Jisoo said quietly. They looked at her. Status? All fleets accounted for, Jisoo answered. Crews ready. Emergency protocols loaded. Hana raised an eyebrow. Even the old ones? Jisoo nodded. Especially the old ones. Silence filled the deck for a moment. Outside, alien fleets moved with perfect order. Their ships aligned like dancers, waiting for music. Human ships stayed slightly apart. Their formations were loose, uneven. It looked messy. But inside those ships, crews worked with steady hands. Engineers checked armor seals. Mechanics tested manual controls. Ammunition was loaded by hand. Thick doors were locked and reinforced. Hana walked along a maintenance corridor, her fingers brushing the cold metal walls. She knew every sound of this ship. Every vibration meant something. This ship had been rebuilt more times than she could count. A young engineer looked up at her. Do you think they're right? She paused. About what? That we don't belong here. Hana smiled slightly. We were told that on Earth, too. The engineer nodded and returned to work. Back on the command deck, Day watched the stars ahead. He remembered old history lessons. Times when humans faced stronger enemies. Times when survival mattered more than pride. A message arrived from the Coalition Command. Human fleet will follow at reduced speed. Maintain distance from primary assault group. Dai acknowledged it. Jisoo exhaled slowly. They want us behind them. Yes, Day said. For now. The fleets began to move. As the ships jumped toward the war zone. The human vessels lagged behind, just as ordered. Alien sensors tracked them, some with open doubt. Predictions were made. Most expected human losses within minutes of real combat. No one noticed the small changes. Human ships adjusted power flows. Armor plates shifted into locked positions. Backup systems activated quietly. Physical targeting systems aligned. No one noticed because nothing looked impressive. And that was exactly how humans preferred it. Far ahead. The first signs of enemy forces appeared on scanners. Energy signatures, unlike anything seen before. Strong, aggressive. The alien fleets moved forward with confidence. Human ships followed, steady and silent. Day placed his hand on the command rail. All crews, he said calmly, remember your training. Across dozens of ships, voices answered. Simple. Ready. The galaxy watched, unaware that the weakest-looking fleet was the one that had survived the most wars. And this was only the beginning. The journey to the war zone took several days. Space stretched wide and empty, broken only by distant stars and the slow movement of allied fleets. The alien ships moved with perfect balance, their engines silent, their formations tight and proud. Human ships followed behind, slower, louder, and clearly different. Alien observers watched them closely. Some sent quiet reports back to their commanders. Others recorded data for later study. Most of the comments were the same. Too slow, too heavy, too old. Inside the human fleet, life continued with steady rhythm. Day walked through the central corridor of his ship, his boots echoing softly against the metal floor. The walls were thick and worn, marked by old repairs and layers of paint. Every mark told a story of survival. He nodded to crew members as he passed. They returned the gesture without fear or excitement. This was normal for them. On the engineering deck, Hana stood near an open panel, watching sparks flash as a technician adjusted a power relay by hand. No glowing screens guided the work. Only tools, sound, and experience. Keep it stable, she said calmly. Don't push it for speed. The technician wiped sweat from his brow. The alien ships could cross this distance twice as fast. Hannah looked up. And how many times could they keep moving after losing power? The technician smiled faintly and returned to his work. Nearby, rows of ammunition crates were being secured. Thick metal shells rested inside, heavy and solid. They did not glow or hum. They waited. Hannah placed her hand on one of the crates. She remembered why these weapons were made this way. Energy could be blocked. Signals could be hacked. But mass, once moving, did not care about shields or codes. On the command deck, Jisoo studied tactical projections. The enemy empire's territory loomed ahead, marked in deep red. Their fleet size estimates were troubling. Larger than expected. Better armed than the report suggested. She turned to Day. They rely on networks, she said. Every system linked. Every ship dependent on shared data. Day nodded. Strength can become weakness. Yes, Jisoo replied. If you know where to press. A message arrived from Coalition Command. Joint exercise scheduled. All fleets will demonstrate combat readiness. Jisoo's eyes narrowed slightly. They want to test us. Let them, they said. The exercise took place near a dead star, its cold light barely touching the fleets. Alien ships moved first. They danced through space, firing controlled bursts of energy at drones. Their shots were precise, their shields flawless. Applause echoed through shared channels. Then it was the human fleet's turn. Their ships moved forward slowly. Too slowly, some thought. Drones fired simulated attacks, striking human hulls. The impacts rang loudly. Armor plates shook. Observers expected explosions. None came. Human ships kept moving. Damage indicators flashed briefly, then steadied. Crews rerouted power manually. Panels were sealed. No panic. Alien commanders exchanged confused signals. Why do they not evade? One asked. Why do they allow themselves to be hit? Another said. Hannah watched from engineering as warning lights blinked. She spoke into the intercom. Hold position. Let them see. The exercise ended with mixed reactions. Alien fleets praised their own performance and quietly dismissed the humans as inefficient. Too much damage taken. One report stated, unacceptable losses in real combat. Humans read the reports and said nothing. Later, as fleets drifted back into formation, Jisoo called a private meeting. The enemy will not fight like this, she said. They adapt quickly. They aim to disable, not destroy. Day folded his arms. And when disabling fails? They will escalate, Jisoo replied. That is when we move. Hannah nodded. Our ships are ready. Beyond the Allied lines, the first real signs of the enemy appeared. Long-range sensors detected distortions in space. Energy spikes unlike any known drive system. The enemy fleet was close. Alien ships tightened formation. Shields brightened. Weapons powered up. Confidence filled their channels. Human ships stayed back. Just as ordered. As hours passed, tension grew. Silence spread across space. Then, without warning, enemy vessels emerged from folded space. Dark, sharp shapes filled the void. Their weapons fired instantly. The first shot struck alien shields. For a moment, the defenses held. Then the shields shattered. Energy rippled across the battlefield. Alien ships lost power. Systems flickered. Communication lines broke. Panic followed. Human sensors tracked everything. Impacts, failures, patterns. Shield breakers, Hannah said quietly. They tuned them perfectly. Jisoo's voice was calm. As expected, Coalition Command shouted orders across broken channels. Confusion spread as ships collided or drifted helplessly. Human ships were hit next. Enemy weapons slammed into their hulls. The impacts were brutal. Metal screamed. Consoles shook, but the ships did not die. Armor cracked, but held. Systems switched to backups. Manual controls engaged. They gripped the rail. Advance! The order surprised everyone listening. Human ships moved forward, straight into the storm of fire. Alien observers stared as the slow, ugly ships did what theirs could not. They kept fighting. Hana's hands flew over physical controls. Targeting locked. Old weapons ready. Jisoo gave the command. Fire. Heavy shells launched from human ships, silent at first, then unstoppable. They struck enemy vessels with raw force. Shields meant for energy attacks failed. Hulls tore apart. The enemy hesitated. For the first time, the battle changed. Alien fleets watched in disbelief as the outdated ships pushed forward, absorbing damage and dealing it back in a way no one expected. The war had truly begun, and humanity was no longer just support. A battlefield burned with broken light. Wreckage drifted in slow arcs, spinning pieces of alien metal and shattered shields. Signals overlapped in confusion. Some ships called for help. Others went silent without warning. Human ships kept moving. They stood steady on the command deck as another impact shook the hull. The lights flickered, then returned. A crew member reported damage in a calm voice, followed by a repair update seconds later. This rhythm repeated again and again. Ahead, the enemy fleet adjusted its formation. Dark vessels spread wide, then closed like a net. Their weapons shifted frequency, searching for weaknesses. Enemy adapting, Jisoo said. Her eyes moved across the tactical display. They are learning fast. Let them, they replied. We learn faster. Alien ships struggled to regroup. Without shields, many relied on emergency systems that failed under constant pressure. Some tried to retreat. Others drifted, powerless. Coalition command finally stabilized a channel. All units, pull back, the voice said, strained and broken. Regroup behind. The signal cut out. Jisoo looked at Day. If we pull back, they will break the line. Day nodded. Then we don't pull back. He opened a fleet-wide channel. Human ships advance in layers. Keep distance. Cover each other. Acknowledgements came in quickly. No hesitation. No questions. Human ships shifted formation. It was not clean or beautiful, but it was effective. Each vessel overlapped fields of fire. Damaged ships fell back, while others moved forward to shield them. Repairs happened in real time. Crews working as weapons fired around them. Hana watched energy readings climb and fall. They're trying to overload us, she said, targeting joints and seams. Expected, Jisoo replied. Rotate armor. Massive plates slid into place, locking with heavy sounds. The ship took another hit. The force echoed through every corridor, but the hull held. Hana allowed herself a small breath. Still alive. Across the battlefield, enemy ships changed tactics again. Smaller craft rushed forward, fast and sharp, aiming to swarm human vessels. They fired cutting beams designed to slice through armor. Several beams struck. The armor burned. Metal peeled. But the beams did not reach the core. Human point defenses answered. Physical rounds filled space, tearing through the smaller enemy craft. Pieces scattered like dust. The enemy hesitated. That moment was enough. Day gave the next order. All forward batteries. Focus fire. Human ships fired together. Heavy shells crossed the void, unstoppable once launched. They smashed into enemy hulls, crushing internal systems and breaking ships apart. Alien observers finally understood. These ships were not outdated. They were built to endure punishment that modern fleets could not imagine. Coalition ships that still had. Power began to follow the human lead. They stayed behind the armored vessels, using them as moving shields. It was not planned. It was instinct. Jisoo adjusted targeting data and sent it across open channels. "Follow our vectors," she said. "Do not rely on shields." Some listened. Some did not. Those that did survived longer. The enemy fleet commander reacted with visible anger. Their ships surged forward, concentrating fire on Day's flagship. Weapon impacts layered over each other, hammering the same spot again and again. Alarms sounded. "Armor breach on deck 7. A crew member reported. Day did not move. "Seal it." "Sealed? Casualties?" "2 injured. No losses." Hannah clenched her jaw. "They are trying to break us first." Jisoo's voice was cold. "They should have tried earlier." The flagship fired its main guns. The recoil shook the ship, but the shots landed true. An enemy cruiser folded inward, its structure failing under raw impact. Silence followed. Then chaos. The enemy line cracked. Some ships turned to flee. Others fired wildly. Coordination failed. Human ships pushed harder. They watched the battle shift, feeling the weight of command settle deeper. This was no longer survival. This was control. But the enemy was not finished. A massive vessel moved forward from the rear, larger than any ship seen so far. Its surface crawled with weapons. Energy gathered around it, forming a field that bent light. Jisoo stiffened. "Command ship." Hannah studied the readings. "That field isn't a shield. It's something else." The command ship fired. The blast struck multiple coalition vessels at once. Systems died instantly. Hulls cracked. Several ships vanished in flashes of light. For the first time, even human ships staggered. Day's flagship took the edge of the blast. The lights went out completely. Darkness filled the command deck. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then emergency lights flickered on. Red, dim. "Enough. Power?" Day asked. "Primary down," Hannah said. "Secondary holding. Manual control active." Jisoo checked the display. "We can't trade shots with that thing." Day considered for only a moment. "We don't trade." He opened the channel again. "All human ships. Target the command vessel. Ignore everything else." Some ships were barely holding together. Others burned along their hulls. Still, every one of them turned. They moved forward together. Enemy fire slammed into them. Armor failed. Hulls ruptured. Crews fought smoke and fire with bare hands. But they kept moving. Hannah activated a final system. "Old guidance online." "What does it do?" Jisoo asked. "It doesn't stop." Hannah answered. The command ship fired again. Human ships launched everything they had. Physical rounds, missiles, heavy shells. No energy signatures to block. No signals to jam. The command vessel's field wavered, then collapsed. The next impacts tore into its core. The massive ship broke apart in slow, terrible motion. The enemy fleet froze. Then it ran. Silence spread across the battlefield, broken only by drifting wreckage and damaged ships limping forward. Coalition channels filled with stunned voices. "What did we just witness?" One asked. Jisoo leaned back, exhausted. "Human war doctrine," she said quietly. Day looked out at the stars, breathing slowly. And this was only the opening. Far away, the enemy retreated into the dark. The galaxy had just learned something important. Humanity did not need to look advanced to be unstoppable. The silence after the battle felt heavier than the fighting itself. Broken ships drifted slowly, their lights fading one by one. Some still burned, others were already cold. The stars watched without care. Human ships slowed at last. Day remained. On the command deck, standing where he had been for hours. His body ached, but his face stayed calm. Reports flowed in from every direction. Damage levels, injuries, losses, fleet status? He asked. Jisoo answered after a pause. 17 ships destroyed, many damaged. All command vessels operational. Day closed his eyes for a moment. 17 was not a small number, but it was far less than expected. And the coalition? He asked. Jisoo's voice hardened. Losses are heavy. Outside, alien ships drifted near human vessels, keeping close as if afraid to move alone. Some were missing entire sections. Others had no power and relied on human tugs to stay intact. Coalition Command finally reestablished a stable channel. This is Council Command, the voice said, uncertain. Human fleet report. Day stepped closer to the console. Enemy command ship destroyed. Remaining hostile forces retreating. Silence followed. Then a quiet response. Understood. No praise. No orders. Just disbelief. Hana moved through the engineering decks, checking on crews. Smoke lingered in the air. Burn marks covered the walls. Yet people worked calmly, patching armor, sealing compartments, carrying the injured. A young mechanic looked up at her. They keep staring at us, he said. She followed his gaze to an external camera feed. Alien crews watched through viewports, eyes wide, bodies tense. They've never seen ships fight like this, Hana said. They look scared, the mechanic replied. Hana nodded. They should be. On the bridge, Jisoo reviewed enemy retreat paths. They're pulling back toward the inner systems, she said. If we let them regroup, this war will drag on. Day considered the map. We won't let them rest. Jisoo looked at him. The coalition fleets are not ready for pursuit. They don't have to be, Day said. We do. The order went out quietly. Human ships would advance. Coalition Command protested at once. Messages flooded in, warning of overextension, unknown enemy weapons, political consequences. They listened, then replied with a single transmission. Delay gives the enemy time. We end this now. There was no response. Human ships moved forward, engines roaring once more. Damaged vessels stayed behind, guarded by a few escorts. The rest pushed into enemy territory. The deeper they traveled, the stranger space became. Sensors struggled, energy readings twisted and bent. Enemy defenses appeared in scattered clusters, automated and aggressive. Human ships did not slow. They absorbed fire. They returned it. They adapted. Hana worked nonstop, rerouting power through. Damaged systems, forcing machines far beyond their limits. She trusted the ships. They had always endured. Enemy resistance grew sharper near a fortified system. Platforms hidden among asteroids opened fire, striking multiple ships at once. Ambush, Jisoo said. They learned. Day nodded. Then we teach them again. Human ships split apart, spreading wide. Some drew fire deliberately, their armor breaking under focused attacks. Others slipped through gaps and targeted the platforms directly. Explosions lit the dark. Human ship took a direct hit to its core. It vanished in a flash. No one spoke. Day's hands tightened on the rail. Loss was part of this path. He knew it. They all did. The platforms fell one by one. The enemy's inner defenses crumbled faster than expected. Without their command ship, coordination failed. Orders conflicted. Retreat paths crossed. Human ships pressed on. At the edge of the inner system, the enemy made a final stand. A dense cluster of warships formed a wall of fire, protecting their core worlds. Jisoo studied the formation. They're afraid, she said. This is desperation. Hana looked at the numbers. They outgun us here. They nodded slowly. Then we don't fight fair? He gave the order. Several damaged human ships broke formation and accelerated forward. Their engines burned too bright. Warnings screamed across their decks. Overload, Hana whispered. The ships did not slow. They reached the enemy line and detonated, not in simple explosions, but in controlled collapses of mass and force. Shockwaves ripped through the enemy formation, tearing holes where none should exist. The path opened. Remaining human ships surged through. The enemy line broke completely. As human vessels entered orbit above enemy worlds, all resistance ceased. Weapons powered down. Signals flooded space. Surrender. They exhaled for the first time in what felt like days. The war was not fully over, but its end was certain. Coalition fleets finally arrived, moving carefully, as if approaching something dangerous. They did not speak to the humans at first. They only watched. From the windows of battered human ships, crews looked back at them, tired, wounded, and very much alive. The balance of the galaxy had shifted, not because humans were the most advanced, but because they were willing to endure what others could not. And the stars would remember that. The war ended without celebration. There were no bright signals, no songs across open space. The enemy worlds powered down their defenses and waited. Their fleets stayed still, weapons cold. As human ships held position in silent watch, Day stood on the command deck and felt the weight finally settle. The noise of battle was gone, replaced by soft hums and distant repair sounds. He looked at the damage reports one last time. Too many names, too many empty posts, but humanity still stood. Coalition fleets arrived in full numbers days later. They moved slowly, carefully, as if entering the territory of something dangerous. Their once proud ships showed scars now, patched and dim. They opened channels at last. "This is the Galactic Council," a voice said, steady but changed. "Human command, acknowledge." Day stepped forward. "Acknowledged." A pause followed, longer than protocol allowed. "We request a formal address," the voice continued. "At your convenience." Day glanced at Jisoo. She nodded once. The council hall looked the same as before. Vast, bright, impressive, but the mood had changed. Viewing window now showed human ships floating in quiet. Lines, damaged, scarred. Imposing. Alien delegates filled the platforms. But there was no laughter this time. No whispers of mockery. Many avoided looking directly at the human platform. Bay stood at the front again. His uniform was worn now, stained and patched. Hannah stood beside him, her hands marked by burns and grease. Jisoo stood slightly behind, her posture calm and unyielding. The crystal speaker rose once more. Its light flickered in slow patterns. "The threat has been neutralized," it said. "The enemy empire has surrendered unconditionally." Silence spread across the hall. "The Council recognizes the decisive role played by human forces," the speaker continued. "Your methods were unexpected." Bay said nothing. A different delegate spoke, its voice careful. "Your ships lack many of our advanced systems. Yet they survived what ours could not. Explain this." Hannah stepped forward. "Our ships are not built to avoid damage," she said simply. "They are built to keep working after damage happens." Another voice followed. "Your technology appears old." Jisoo answered this time. "Old does not mean weak. It means tested." Murmurs filled the hall, not of laughter, but of unease. The speaker addressed Day directly. "Human commander, what does your species seek as reward?" Day met its glowing gaze. "Nothing that isn't earned." The words echoed. "We will accept equal standing," he continued. "Equal voice. Equal responsibility." The council hesitated. Then, one by one, delegates signaled agreement. Some reluctantly, some quickly, all of them clearly aware that refusal was no longer safe. "Then it is recorded," the speaker said. "Humanity is recognized as a full military and political power." The decision rippled across known space within hours. News Spread fast. Stories followed. They spoke of ships that would not die, of crews that repaired hulls under fire, of weapons too simple to stop, of commanders who advanced when logic said retreat. On distant worlds, young species studied human designs with fear and respect. Back aboard the fleet, life slowly returned to normal. Repairs took weeks. Some ships would never fly again. Others would be rebuilt, stronger than before. Hannah walked through a dry dock, running her hand along a shattered armor plate. Alien engineers watched her work in silence, taking notes, asking careful questions. "You don't hide your systems," one of them said. "No," Hannah replied. "If something breaks, we want to reach it." They did not argue. Jisoo met with coalition commanders, now eager to learn. She explained human doctrines without pride. Layered defense, redundant control, independent crews. Expect failure. Plan beyond it. Some listened closely. Some looked afraid. They visited the memorial bay alone. Names glowed softly on a metal wall. No grand design, just simple text. He stood there for a long time, breathing slowly. They had been underestimated too. Later, as the fleet prepared to return home, a final message arrived from the council. "Human command," it read. "The galaxy is safer because of you." They closed the channel without reply. Outside, the human ships turned toward Earth. Their engines burned bright, loud, and honest. Other fleets kept their distance as they passed, not out of hatred, not out of respect, and fear. Across the stars, one truth had become clear. Never judge humanity by how its ships look. They are not outdated. They are survivors, and the stars now belong to those who endure.